Who are the mentally retarded? They are people. They come in both sexes and in all sizes, shapes, creeds, and colors. Wherever people live, there also live the mentally retarded.
You dumb, lard-ass, ludtard morons. You still don't get that the answer is the communication of spiritual knowledge and the communication of natural law and objective morality to the mindless, fucktard, zombie horde masses of this fucking planet.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Great Retardation. I am Cosmic Surf. I'm here with Arabian Pleb. And what I want to share with you right now is we have just come back from going dark. We did have to go dark because of the truth that we've been sharing on this channel. The forces that be really don't want us to be sharing these secrets from the dark corners of the interwebs. I've just been out in the park wearing a bulletproof vest. And what I want to share with you is that both Arabian Pleb and myself, Cosmic Surfer, we are not suicidal. We are not suicidal. And before we go on, I would just like to bring in my partner in crime here, fellow truth sharer, fellow friend who has come back from going dark and is not suicidal. How are we going, Arabian Pleb?
Very well, thank you, Cosmic Surfer. And I feel like just to balance out the energy airwaves that we're putting out there, because you were very very smooth and very silky, mouth close up to the mic. So I'm going to start raging out like Alex Jones. Let's go. Another episode 8. We have broken through the cosmic barrier, Cosmic Surfer, and we are going to bring the truth today. No, I'm very good.
Could you handle James O'Keefe's revelations about Jeffrey Epstein?
What was it?
Could you handle it?
No, what were his revelations? I missed that one.
It's super funny when when your fellow podcast host doesn't get the reference. Yeah, so what all that's about is just basically like bullshit leaks, stuff we already know from like Jeffrey Epstein, James O'Keefe doing like huge bombshell revelations. I've got to go dark because I don't want to get killed. And then coming out and being like, look at this photo in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, dude, that was just such a fucking nothing burger bullshit crap. I seen that on my feed and I was just like, next. Just scroll to the next thing. Yeah, that was trash.
Yeah. And also every nothing burger podcaster in the history of the world lately is carrying on like a pork chop. Just being like, my channel's getting banned, bro. Oh. The government can't handle this.
Oh god.
Anyway, that's where I'm at this week. How's it going, mate?
Good, man. Busy as all fuck. Just heaps going on in my life personally. It's pretty wild, but anyway, trying to just wade through it all, bro, and not let it get me down, and onwards and upwards. And yeah, just juggling the house build, and then just still trying to work for my dad, or pretend that I am working for my dad. I'm not getting a lot done, to be honest, but it's just one of those things. But still, get a few sales. I'm glad that my customers are good to me, so that's good. They just keep coming back to me. Must be doing something right, or have done something right in the past. How about yourself, bro? How have you been since we last spoke?
Very good, mate. Very good. Yeah, so this is not necessarily a tech channel, but it is something that, I'm in and around, and the news is just coming so thick and fast all of the time, and as you can see by the intro, the MH370 plane is one of those watershed moments that plenty of people are following it. But one of the reasons why I'm so interested in it is because it unleashes so much of so many related subjects. So whether it's going from quantum, whether it's going to teleportation tech, whether it's going to the UFO file, whether it's going on from interdimensional forces or the alien stuff, whether it's going from like government cover-ups for the missing money, breakaway civilizations, it goes through all of it because it's video footage of something that's real. And it it's very interesting to see where things are at right now, because what you have right now, just to kind of bring you up to speed, is that you have Ashton Forbes is hot on the trail of the Gorgon stare footage, which is a system that comes from and now I want to say it, the name escapes me, but Nevada Corporation, and so like we're now getting at the point, if not beyond the point, where you can't really argue the footage anymore. It's been so thoroughly debunked. And so now what you have is a reaction. Uh you have either people still not wanting to acknowledge it, you have people dismissing it without even going through the evidence. And then you have like a lot of these Redditor style debunkers, just everyone coming out of the woodwork with debunks that are using footage that was released after the plane footage and is like very clearly fake, like the debunks. And so they're trying to claim like gotcha moments. It's getting shared all the time. There's a lot of new accounts. And one of the main culprits is Ross Coulthart. No, I'm not sure Coulthart. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Aussie journalist from Newsmax. And so he's recently had um his communication shared with a guy that was validating what Ashton was saying, who's like a crime scene reporter guy. And yeah, basically Ross was, in a private chat saying that Ashton and his audience is targeting him and he's a victim of like people giving him death threats and all this kind of stuff, basically playing the victim. So he's a typical kind of like fake alternative media that pretends to be reporting on the UFO file and these different cases, but then keeps doing that's being debunked because of some VFX fake footage bullshit or whatever, and then just won't even engage in the evidence. And while he's an outstanding investigative journalist. And so it's, you basically like there's a light being shone on some of these dark places, which is quite interesting as we're getting into the quantum tech as well. Because once you see these things, it's doesn't have any power anymore as well. So I think that um, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot more that can be done because it's so thorough, the investigation. And so I think that the narrative is probably still off about like why it happened and who was involved and all of that. I think, and Ashton doesn't necessarily claim to have all of those answers, but the best he's got is, CIA and defense contractors teleporting it to Diego Garcia. But who did it and where it went to and all of that is not necessarily known and for what purpose. But the fact that you've got irrefutable evidence showing it, it's like a hurdle that those people just can't climb. But it's just interesting to see the skedaddling of all of the energy. And I was listening to Mark Passio's um, one of his recent podcasts, and I'll this is not what he sent, but I'll send it to you on Signal here. Um, but he was going through these kind of things in one of the episodes, um, alongside the trivium and the quadrivium. But you would know a lot about this kind of stuff, so I just wanted to kind of get a few of your thoughts on that. But the way, yeah, because yourself and Dave Smith, um, in my opinion, have a really solid way of kind of like the rational argument and kind of how to work through it logically. So what I'm seeing is a bunch of these kind of straw man and kind of ad hominems and all of these kind of things because they know that they can't attack the evidence. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of an update on that case. And obviously we've got the plane in our opening footage, so I just want to make sure that we're hot on the heels of this as well.
It is Ashton still subscribing to the thesis that who's the Asian gentleman, Lieutenant Lin, or am I getting that name right? So that Asian gentleman that he thinks is responsible for leaking the MH370 videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But is more likely leaning towards being a good guy. Still, he kind of swung back and forth a little bit, I think. And again, whether he, just stumbled across it and or maybe they witnessed someone else doing, um, doing an event or, you know, whether he was a part of it and leaked it or whatever, is unclear still.
Yeah.
But yeah, his name's now is Edward Soraya. He changed his name when Ashton started covering him.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. That's pretty wild. So this
Yeah, and
go ahead.
there you go.
I was just going to say, so this document that you've shared with me, 10 common fallacies. So these are logical fallacies, like you mentioned at the top there: ad hominem, appeal to authority, appeal to ignorance, bandwagon fallacy, begging the question, loaded question, non sequitur, red herring, slippery slope, straw man. So they're 10 examples of logical fallacies. And yeah, like it's pretty frustrating when you're trying to engage with someone in like an honest discussion and then they start leaning on these logical fallacies. It's fucking infuriating, tell you that much.
Yeah.
And even something like a
Yeah,
good thing that
that's
Dave kind of what he constantly reminds people of is like not just the logical fallacies. Well, I suppose this is probably also a logical fallacy, but just like sometimes even the way that someone frames a question can be like, oh, I suppose it's kind of like the begging the question logical fallacy, but just like framing a question in a way that the intention is to like lead someone to the conclusion that you want them to come to. And it's like, hey, you could have just like asked that without all the baggage and people would have been a little bit more objective about the question. Anyway, there's just so much stuff like that. Like Dave's really a master at breaking down like all that bullshit.
Yeah, and that's something that I really appreciate with him. Maybe I'm getting to appreciate it more. I think part of what we connected with his style is that he does do that, and you've actually helped me out sometimes with my work in terms of being able to engage with people. But I think part of me still somewhat, but not as much, like was just frustrated with like almost like the simplification of like talking to the normie all of the time. And it's like, come on, bro, I don't have all day, like for the half an hour of like yada, 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 yada. Let's just get to the point. But more and more, I think that that's a real skill to have. And I think that that's something that you excel at. Because it makes things drawn out more, but it also accentuates the point, breaks it down. And Mark Passy will probably talk about this as well with like, the definitions of terms and all of that kind of thing. And then another thing that I've recognized that Dave Smith does really well is argues both sides and how they can see it from their perspective. I think that adds credibility as well. And I think that, I'm in one of these natural law groups based on the True Media course I did, and I sent Dave Smith in, and I think one of the reasons why the natural law community fails, and there's many, because the truth community and natural law community fail in a number of ways, but one of the reasons is that I've been noticing is everyone's cups are really full and everyone kind of wants to be acknowledged, and we're all guilty of this, myself included, of course. But one reason is you say like everyone wants to flick everyone like a sauce and say, "Hey, have a look at this," and there's kind of like a reaction in this community of like, "Oh yeah, I know that. Don't you know that?" Like there's like that kind of energy, and so this ability to like there's almost like it's like a whole lot of like one-upsmanship. And again, I'm as guilty as anyone about that, but I have noticed that where it's like, yeah, I just that's one thing to acknowledge, because there's divide and conquer is the program, yet that, and I hate the term truther community or whatever, because I don't really see like that. I don't even want to be a part of the truther community. I'll, I'll call us natural law and objective morality. I think there's a difference, but I mean, real truth, yes, of course. But there's just so much division in that field, and it comes back to the trivium process, input, output, and logic. I really shouldn't know it myself. Yeah, grammar, logic, rhetoric, or input, processing, output. Um, and yeah, like, and even, the ability to be open to information, but also critical of the information and be discerning, but able to receive, like, like kind of what I'm getting at. I just think that we're always like getting beamed that we're always consuming, and that's what I wanted to get to, is without being too serious about it, we're in quite a predicament, in the situation that I believe in a bit of a calm before the storm, if you will. And I'm very frustrated at, and I'm in a good mood, so I don't really sound that frustrated, but like the people are really viewing what's going on as entertainment, and it's really fucked. It's like, let me just tune in to the latest version of how fucked things are up, and well, what are you going to do about that? Well, they just teleported a plane, and what do you know? They've got laser beams and satellites, and we've got quantum technology, and we'll just beam the fuck out of here. And all right, next episode, what have we got going on? The slave system is unfolding. And it's like, yeah, and everyone's like in this like doom scrolling entertainment, like the awake people are like, but bro, you don't really know how really fucked up it is. Let me tell you how really, really fucked up it is. And then it's like, let me share another, like, and then it's just like, you're even more of a slave than you think you are. And it's like, we all do this, but it's like, and like, where do you take action? Where are you putting that into changing? Like, how are you like activating the part of you, the rhetoric part, right? Like of the trivium process. Because if you're just consuming knowledge, and a lot of it is trash, a lot of it is the Gaia TV and ancient alien stuff and other stuff. But there is a lot to the phenomenon, the UFO file, the spiritual, the interdimensional, all of this stuff. But people are really lost. Like they don't really have that sense of connection to self, and there is like a whole picture there. But that's the point I wanted to touch on, is this kind of entertainment, kind of like it's just entertainment to people. Like, what do you have to say about that?
I totally agree. Yes, to some people, for sure. it's kind of psychopathic, really. But I I think like for me, I can only speak for myself. Like I can't get inside the head of anybody else. But like for me, the reason I consume this kind of content is because I believe that those people who I do consume and listen to, as fucked up as the stuff is that they're talking about, like wars and corruption and fucking, um, you know, secrets and secret societies and hidden technology and all this stuff, is like, I think that they're telling the truth. And I
Hmm.
really view myself as a truth seeker. And I think, and not to mix that up with the truther community, like what you were saying, like, I'm not,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people who like would consider themselves in the truther community, I don't agree with everything that they go on about. And I don't think that they have a lot of evidence to back it up. But having said that, I reckon like they're probably right about 85% of the stuff that they talk about, and they do have evidence to back that up. It's just sometimes they kind of get a little bit ahead of themselves and jump to conclusions that isn't necessarily, yeah, backed up by proof. But maybe the proof will unfold at some point, and then they'll be proven right, and I'll look like a dickhead. But I would just say that like, and this is why I do like Dave Smith so much and listen to him constantly. And I think he's really hitting the nail on the head with the things that he focuses on. He doesn't focus on all the stuff that we're interested in, but he's very good at breaking down propaganda. And what I like about his approach is that he's also willing to have his mind changed. Like he's not just hell bent, steadfast in his beliefs, and then that's it, and he's never going to budge on it at all. Like, and he'll admit too, like if you listen to him long enough, he'll talk about the times he has had his mind change, even after being, red pilled, quote unquote, and being, more awake to all the fuckery that goes on in the world, that he had, I don't know, like whatever, like, he was a very much like an open borders type libertarian, and now he's not. He was pro-choice, and now he's not. Now he's pro-life. What else? Yeah. Anyway, they're the two things that come to mind. But there's I've heard him talk about several things where he really changed his mind, and he even kind of even like, so like the intellectual thought leaders that I really look up to, that he also looks up to, like Murray Rothbard, Ludwig von Mises, and Hans Hermann Hoppe. Although Hans Hermann Hoppe is a little bit of a different case. I think Dave would more align with Hans Hermann Hoppe. But say in terms of like Rothbard and Mises, Rothbard was pro-choice, and so Dave is like, even though he thinks like Rothbard was 99% right on the stuff he would talk about, he's like, yeah, no, but I actually disagree with him on this one thing, which, a lot of people, and I include myself in this, that like, it's very easy to, when you find someone that you're like, oh, I agree with this person on almost everything that they say, and then they might have an opinion on something that you haven't really thought too deeply about, but you're just like, oh, well, he said it, so it must be right, and I'm just going to agree with that. Like, that's, Dave doesn't do that, and he's kind of taught me to not do that as well, to really just try and analyze things and think critically for yourself, and be open to having your mind changed. So yeah, that's probably what I'd say on that.
Yeah. That's the trivium process, right? Is like go in with an open mind, and that has had the episode 87 on his podcast. I just listened to it, but go in with an open mind, but think critically and think for yourself, and have your mind change if you get new information that is correct, because the idea is that you find out what is not correct. And this is all pretty basic stuff, but like it's true, man. And like, I guess part of where I'm seeing a little bit of growth in myself as well, and Passio taught me this too, but um, I guess I've been like really critical of people that have poor positions, and it like, I guess it would really like stain me in terms of my perception of them, and like, and the quality of their work. and I would be like, stuff that guy, like, I'm not even gonna listen to him anymore or something like that. And maybe it's because this is obviously like this goes through all things and like how we look at ourselves and all that. So, look into that however you will, but it's like we've also got to forgive ourselves and be nice to ourselves as we upgrade our own level of understanding and those kind of things as well. But for me, it was almost like a deal breaker a lot of the time because I was like, well, if you can't see that, like what do you have to teach me? Like I kind of outgrown this, like bugger that guy or whatever. So, like that kind of, and then I've noticed this in the truther community as well, where it's like, like talking about the Tucker Carlson interview and Catherine Austin Fitz, right? And like the point is the quality of the information that's being shared by Catherine Austin Fitz on a mainstream platform. And it's like, oh, Tucker Carlson. And it's like, I'm not unaware of Tucker Carlson and who he is and where he comes from and his father being in the CIA and different levels of all of that. I'm not naive to that stuff, but it's not the point. The point is the quality of the information that's being distributed across this platform at this point in time, and I believe that to be, we label as seismic, and I believe that to be. Tucker Carlson, so it's like don't be turned off by these things because you got to focus on the quality of the information, and not everyone's got all
Totally.
of the picture as well.
Yeah, exactly, man. And also, like Tucker, like, you know, I think those points that you touched on there about like his father and his background and stuff like that, which I haven't like dug super deep on, so I'm not too sure, but I have heard a lot of people who I think are credible talk about that stuff and say like, hey, like don't, like really just tread carefully when sort of listening to him. But I would just say that like at least in Tucker's case, like he even mentioned this in the Catherine interview, but I've heard him talk about it when he's spoken to Dave and when he's spoken to other people, that like he's changed his mind a bunch throughout the years as well. Like he was a big supporter of the 2003 Iraq invasion, and he's since realized that was fucked and a fucking terrible thing for him to support, and is like any opportunity that he gets, he's like sincerely apologizing for that. And like, yeah, like with like Catherine going on there, yeah, like that's massive, man. Like he's got a huge audience, and like I don't know, I like this whole internet show podcast space because it is more of a market phenomenon as opposed to like the corporate news world where it was very controlled. And not saying that like certain podcasts wouldn't be controlled as well, but you kind of, I think, like say like in terms of like the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro and all those guys, like their numbers are just like dropping off a cliff, and it's because people are starting to see through their bullshit. And so people who have big audiences, there's like, I think there's something to say about that. That like it seems as though when there is a bit more of a level playing field, anyone can just get into this space and start talking. That like a lot of people, and like you said, like some of it is just pure, people just looking for entertainment, don't really care about seeking the truth. But of the podcasts and the world that like we're in that are trying to get at the truth, either speaking the truth or doing their best to rub up close to it and at the truth as they see it. Like some of these shows have like massive audiences, even just like, the biggest podcast in the world, Joe Rogan. I think there's a reason why his podcast is so big, is because people really view him, even though like he might not be correct on everything. People know that he's not fucking lying to them. Like he is sincere in his opinions, and when he talks to people, he's not afraid to like say to them, oh, like, no, like, his bullshit detector goes off and he thinks that like he'll challenge people, and he seems very sincere in what he's saying. And just to your point about, like when someone gets something wrong, they might have like 7 things right, but then they get 3 things wrong. You're like, oh, fuck this guy. Like he should know better. And the fact that he's getting those 3 things wrong, like dismiss him. Like I feel you, man. But like say like for example, someone like Glenn Greenwald. I think he's great. I think he's like one of the greatest journalists alive, and has done phenomenal work, especially with the Edward Snowden story. But like he's a total. He really is like a socialist. Like he's a bit of a communist when it comes to like his economic positions, which I completely disagree with him on all that stuff. But he does such heroic work when it comes to war and peace that like I'm willing to put that aside and just go, yeah, okay, fine. Like I disagree with him in this area, but on like the most important issue of like whether babies get slaughtered or not, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, like I'm like, yeah, I'm with you
Mm,
100%. So yeah, that's just one of those things.
mm.
I really got that attitude from listening to Scott Horton, because he interviews all these guys like Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, and like Scott's a radical fucking libertarian like Dave, so he would disagree with a lot of these guys on their sort of socialist economic views, but Scott's just like, I don't give a crap, man. Like fucking yeah, exactly what I just said before. Like they're speaking the truth when it comes
Mm.
to war and peace. So fucking that's worth more to me than the areas that I disagree with them on.
That is true. And what is also true is that we do have to be a little careful of some of those deeper things. Like people like Taibbi, I've enjoyed their work as well. And at the same time, I think there's some stuff going on there that I've got to do some more research on, and even the Twitter files and those kind of things.
Yeah, I
I'm
hated
not
the way
completely
that
sold on.
Elon did the whole Twitter files and
Yeah,
only giving the information to like Barry Weiss, Matt Taibbi, and like a handful of people, and then it being filtered through them before. It's
yeah.
like why wouldn't you just like totally just like release it all, just like create a zip file or whatever the fuck and drop it all for everybody to sift through.
I'll kind of hold back a little bit there, and just to circle back to Catherine and it's one of the things that she's been big on over all these years is mind control technology, and that's come up again today in the Sean Ryan interview that we'll play later. But I just wanted to make sure I covered that because you know reality distortion fields, as Dark Journalist claims, is his information, so which is totally incorrect. But that guy getting a bit of call out from us because he's coining his own terms and claiming the whole narrative of everything to do with anything related to exotic technology and the UFO file because he coined some terms. He'd been doing it a while, so therefore, if you talk about it and you don't credit him, you are not a good journalist and you're stealing his work. But yeah, I think like reality distortion fields and the ability to make sense of true information um, is going to become like really, really important. I think we've mentioned this a few times now. Um, but what I also wanted to touch on a little bit, and I think that it might have even been Dave Smith talking about it with Tucker, and you just mentioned it about the success of some of these podcasts. What you said is true, and at the same time, I don't think people really realize just how controlled the environment is in technology and media. They think that, um, and because I'm in this space, but they think because they've got a website or they've got an alternative, they use crypto or they use Patreon or they've got a Substack or whatever it is, that they've got they're the alternative media. And one thing, and one of your buds, or people that you like, Clint Russell, like this is an example of, in my opinion, like definitely good on like a bunch of stuff, but I've got a real issue with people that are deliberately not sharing the whole truth because they think that it's going to, like, I understand from a business perspective about, you're going to do the thing that gets you the biggest audience and get you the best outcome so you can make the most money. I definitely understand all of that. But I think that there's also a line that gets crossed with people that are doing things like not calling out Elon Musk or technocracy when they know that to be an issue, but then they choose certain subjects to cover or not cover because of how it's going to affect their audience. And and I think a number of people do that. I'm not just like singling out Clint, but I kind of am. But like he's
How dare you? How dare
like
you, Nick?
one example. Yeah, yeah. But like that's one example of that. And what I'm getting at is that even though this movement seems very decentralized and organic, on another layer, it really isn't in terms of how things are boosted and how things get exposure. And I know that we've been joking about being throttled and shadow banned and all that because obviously we're joking, but that that is like in a sea of how these things work. Yes, there is organic stuff, but it's also a very controlled environment as well. And one of the things that I am seeing, and we may have a bit of a point of contention here, but I'm actually seeing this truth movement. We talk about natural law, right? We talk about religion as slavery and this kind of stuff, right? But, the idea of God or the divine, that's something that we agree on. Neither of us are atheists, but whatever the term is, I would disagree with the God term because of the God matrix. But on a deeper level, we're not talking about the religion of God. I believe that what you and me agree on is that there is, an ether, there is a divine force that runs through everything, the infinite nature of us and who we are, and we have a higher self, like all of that kind of level. But what I'm noticing is just a proliferation of um, Christian podcasters or Christian God, like the kind of God of Christianity, um, like getting a lot of airtime, and that has been coming for a while. And people have been that I know of that are like very woo woo have been saying that that's coming, and it can be seen as like natural organic as we talk about what's been going on with Israel and the Jews and also Muslims, and like a natural kind of pushback of people want to kind of whatever. But also I believe that there's something like very coordinated going on there where it's kind of like the right wing MAGA, whatever you want to call it, kind of movement. There's like now this kind of the kind of truth and the kind of freedom loving kind of a thing feels like it's being swept up into Christianity. And I've even heard that Joe Rogan's attending church now. So I'm not sure if that's true, but last point is that even Joe Rogan doing the whole AI and like universal basic income and AI governance is it's inevitable. And like one of the things people saying is inevitable is like really bothersome to me, and that's kind of the thing that like filters through these technocrats and Elon Musk and that. But I did want to I wanted to touch on that Christianity point just because I'm just like noticing it being almost like jammed down your throat, and with these people that So yeah, do you feel like that's happening, or you just think it's like a natural process?
I think that Russell Brand becoming a Christian was super organic, and that I don't know why you'd question Christianity at all, Nick, Cosmic Surfer, and I think that you should just get on board with whatever Russell Brand's doing. So uh,
He's magnetic.
he's magnetic. What's that? What's that mean? Literally?
Just strong aura.
Oh shit. But yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, that's interesting. I have noticed it. Like I don't know. Like I like consider myself a Christian, but that's mainly because of my upbringing and my father, and I probably just am n- more ignorant on the subject, and I just want to just have something that I believe in, kind of thing, because it helps me get away from the nonsense, and like something that I can just like just on like a personal level feel like I'm getting in touch with my spiritual side. But having said that, I've never read the entire Bible. I don't go to church at all. I think the churches are all fucking corrupt as fuck, and a bunch of fucking do a bunch of awful things to young people. And then the whole occult aspect that I've been learning from Tobias Nuttall on the Waking World podcast with Dale. talking about the Catholicism and the Catholic Church and all that stuff is like yeah. So, but I don't know. Like, I probably again, like, I'm open to having my mind changed, and I am willing to drop the label if if that is the makes sense. If I sort of think about it a bit more deeply. But as it stands, I would call myself a Christian. But I hear what you're saying, and I agree. And I find it really cringe, dude. Like I find the the more people that seem to be publicly declaring themselves Christians and maybe not even yeah. Even yeah, there's even like a handful of people like because I used to really love hip hop and rap. I still do, I guess, kind of, but more the old school stuff, not this new stuff. But there's I'm seeing there's a lot of rappers that are becoming Muslim, are reading the Quran and getting right into the Islam thing as well. So maybe it's not just the Christian thing; it's also other forms of religion as well. But yeah, the more people that I see like converting to it, I kind of start thinking like, yeah, like what's going on? And this seems a bit cringe and weird, and I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, and yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess part of this as well is in the Sean Ryan interview today as well, and it's like, and okay, it's fine. Like people, like if they're Christian. Like that's not really the point. It's just that like so many different related subjects. It's like, okay, we're getting into quantum, we're getting into advanced technology, and it's like they're revealing the technology and like these things, but at the same time you're getting these other things like filtered through and jammed down your throat at the same time as like the leading people in the like in like the quantum technology and the military and the satellites and all that. They're also saying like, oh, it has to be done through force because knowing human nature, you have to use force to be safe or whatever it is. And then at the same time, they're like, we have the answers to quantum. And what does quantum really show? It shows that God created us. And if you believe in God, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, just kind of like these same patterns, And I know that it can be like these particular people, like Sean Ryan or this guy, like all of that. But it's just like a common, like a consistent thing.
Mm. Yeah, I hear you, dude. Yeah,
So,
it's super fascinating. It's yeah, but I think we've just got to I think it's healthy to be skeptical, right? And to just if you start noticing patterns, to just put a pin in that and yeah, just take note, not be oblivious to it all.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been noticing, mate. And then, one of the going back to the point on the mind control and that, one of the things that I um saw that the guy mentioned this morning, what he said, those that understand information is the most powerful weapon in the human race, that the most lethal weapon is right between your ears. If I can influence what's going on between your ears and what you see is true and what reality is, I can shape that so you act in my best interests, not in your best interests.
Fuck, that's powerful. That's well, you know
So,
what, dude? Like that's why I want to do this. Why I like doing this with you is because if I'm being like completely honest, like I want to I think that we've got something powerful to talk about and that we're getting at the truth and I want more people to hear it.
mm. Yeah, and this kind of touches on, and I was having a shout out to my friend who shall not be named, but having a conversation about the 0 point energy community, and also it kind of touches a little bit on that entertainment, you know, conspiracy angle, but it kind of goes to like why don't we have it? And it's not the whole answer because there's so many people have been killed and cover-ups and black projects and all of that. But on top of that, it is actually possible to piece it all together. You can get schematics, you can figure it out for yourself. And even when you do get the schematics or you do get the information, then you've actually got to go get the hands-on experiential wisdom to know for yourself. And when it comes to that part, everyone's just like, oh, well, fuck that. And, then you wonder why we don't have it. Because, okay, like, not everyone in the world is going to, you know, go and make a 0 point energy device. Like, I understand that. But it's also not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. So I'm probably going to go do it myself as well, like, with my friend or whatever, like just because I know that it's possible and, just to make it happen. And it's like, who am I to talk about this shit if I don't give it a crack myself anyway?
How much, just out of
Um,
curiosity, what do you think the cost would be to build something like that?
there's whole different shapes and forms depending on if you're talking about like a magnetic motor or if you're talking about like a solid state device or something like that. But not like not very expensive, like hundreds of dollars or whatever, and yeah, okay, like you can get it to more than that. And yes, if you're gonna do a whole scalable, bigger operation, all of that, but to come up with a prototype or to do something that it's not it's just time and energy and effort and putting it together.
If even if I could build something that just like runs my refrigerators for free, or like at very, very, very minimal cost, like I'd be so fucking pumped with that, dude. I'd be on board.
For sure. And I guess I just want to, like, with all of this, for me, the point is to, relate this back to the natural law. And like all of this points to like okay, we're all truth seekers. Okay, like there's all this information coming through, but like then what do you do with it? And it's kind of that common theme. And like as I was saying, like with the MH370 case, it's kind of at the point where people have got the information now. So now it's like, okay, well, is it going to be like a false flag event? Is there going to be some reality distortion thing? Is there going to be a big distraction? Because all of the typical tricks aren't working right now, as far as I can see. Like I guess they're going to try and keep ignoring it and try and whatever, but I don't, it's yeah, like these people are getting like spammed. They're getting like shutted down on all of social media, like Ross Coulthart and that Nevada corporation or whatever. So there's only like these people have committed crimes. And I guess we touched on that in the last episode, and I wanted to ask you about that because one of the things that I disagree with in this community is like the reaction is like these people should go to jail for life. And it's like I understand that reaction and I understand the need for people to get some kind of resolution on crimes that have been committed. And I definitely don't agree with this whole like if we want to get 0 point energy, it's never going to be given. Like we've got to create, and that's why I'm talking about like actually doing something. But and again, I don't believe in the amnesty to be handed over the information because that's bullshit as well. But I wanted to get you to speak to, and I kind of asked you last week as well, but I wanted to kind of get you to speak on like how do you rectify that from a, you know, without appealing to authority, this whole notion of like, well, like let's go lock all these people up in a cage because we're these people that have committed crimes against humanity, basically. How do you see that?
Well, it would. We'd have to um, work out like the severity of the crimes, and like yeah, like I I don't know how many people were on that plane, but I think there was a couple of hundred at least, right? So whoever was
Yeah.
responsible for zapping that plane and killing all those people, uh, like they're murderers. But I would just say too that like even though like I consider myself an anarchist and I hate the state and if I had a big red button that I could push to abolish the state immediately, I'd push it in a heartbeat. But given that we do have a state, and this is just the reality of the situation, I'd almost view it like I don't know, like in the same way that if someone murders someone and then there's a murderer loose on the street and he could potentially murder again, I would want the police to go arrest that person and charge that person with murder. You know,
Mark Passio would be screaming in your face right now.
well, what would Mark Passio say, do you think? Like
He
even
would
just in
just
that hypothetical of like, someone murders
he would just
someone,
say that he would just say that the police are immoral and fuck you.
what do we do about the murderer?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really know the answer there, but it would basically be like individual responsibility if you defend yourself and do no harm and that kind of thing. Like if he's not coming to murder you personally, I don't know how that would work.
Mm. Well, like say for example, like someone, and then obviously we're just playing around with hypotheticals here, but it's worth doing. It's good thought experiment. This is sort of the stuff that Dave exercises, and I think it's good for the mind and good to sort of just like try and work through these things in a logical way. But like say like someone murdered my sister, and under current circumstances with the reality that we have government and states and police and all that sort of stuff, and that if that person that murdered my sister, if I was like, I'm gonna take this into my own hands, my own personal responsibility, and get my own justice for this person murdering my sister, and I go and I go and do something to that person, either maim him or murder him myself, or maybe not murder. I don't know if he classes murder or manslaughter. I'm not too sure, but I go kill that person myself. The state's going to and if the state can catch find me and catch me and detain me, then they're gonna fucking throw me in a cage. So just under the current circumstances, and I wish it wasn't the case, but it's just the sad reality is that it is that if someone murdered my sister, I would want the police to go get that motherfucker.
Yeah, so I hear you on that, and I'm not trying to avoid the scenario that you've just set up, but I guess what I'm looking at is like a bigger picture where it's quite opaque. So yes, you've got the plane, but then you've got the weaponization of this scalar technology. Then you've got collateral damage. Then you've got hiding free energy from people for 100 years, and the people that have died from not being having access to it. Then you've got this satellite technology. You've got that being weaponized, and you've got mind control technology. You've got reality distortion technology. You've got technology that is affecting the human biofield, and 5G and all of these kind of things. So that they're all doing harm on one level, but also these systems are being deliberately set up in a way where there's no personal responsibility. Because you can set up a company, you can set up a SPAC, you can set up a company in space, you can set up, shell companies, you can, you can even just on a more grounded level, these oil companies, they'll sell an oil rig to another company right before they know that it's about to, just go into the ocean and, and degrade and those kind of things. So what you've got like is a whole apparatus of, okay, no one's standing there with a gun and shooting your sister, but you've got like a very wide range of death and destruction and imposition of people onto others, and no real recourse or individual responsibility in that regard.
Mm. Yep, yep.
So then, yeah. So the question is like, what do you do about it? Like, go look them all up, but then it's like, well, like,
How?
then you get in. I mean, that's what I mean. Like how, but then also, yes, there's evidence, but then as we know, like nothing gets done, and then you get in even on a financial crime. You've got the Bank of International Settlements deciding who the too big to fail ones are. You've got the 2008 financial crash, no one goes to jail. Like you've got all of that plausible deniability. So, on one hand, like you've got to like prove it innocent until proven guilty, and then it's like even when you do, there's no real action to take.
Yeah. And
So
I
yeah,
think like when it's on that scale, when it's like massive crimes against humanity, like you're talking about, and also the the very people that are responsible for these crimes are the same group of people that you're expecting to go and arrest them, like to arrest themselves or something,
mm,
like they're in charge of these power structures, and you're like wanting the power structure to go and hold these people accountable. So yeah, so when you're talking like on that large of a scale and that widespread and that pervasive, that then yeah, I think that we've then got to go to what you were talking about initially at the start of this, that like, hey man, like no one's coming to save us and no one's going to give you this technology and no one's going to fucking hold anybody accountable, so you've got to build it yourself, and we've got to build probably that would just be my assumption, is that we've
mm,
we've got to build our own, like fucking our own shit, and have like a parallel kind of fucking technology or parallel economy. And I don't know, yeah, I don't know that there ever would be, like say like for these super duper uber powerful people, I don't know that justice is going to come in this realm. It may be something that happens in another realm, like
yeah. I mean, and I think you could be right, but I also think that things will, the way that natural law works is that will, in one way or another, that'll even out. But I guess maybe I don't have the answers, or we don't have the answers on like what action that is, but I guess it's more like in the natural law, objective morality, what's the way to align like one's best actions with natural law in this regard. But like
exactly.
if Gorgon stairs, if Gorgon stair is in use, and this, and again I can't think of the name, but it's like a something Nevada Corporation, and or if it's the teleportation tech, which has been done by Lockheed Martin, which is a private company, like okay, like in this hypothetical, it's not actually hypothetical, but yes, it was Lockheed Martin technology that was developed that killed those people, right? Okay, or Gorgon said, take your pick. So, like citizens arrest, like so, like um, yeah, we're probably going around in circles a little bit, but it's like it's also not cool to like ignore the immorality of it. So then it's like to just be like, okay, well, that's immoral. Okay, moving on. Nothing's going to be done. Like that also doesn't seem like a great approach either.
Mm. Yeah, no, well, I think like while we don't have the power, again, like I fucking sound like just like a Dave Smith fanboy, but I really do like appreciate his approach with all this stuff. Is just like he's never going to shut the fuck up talking about this stuff, and he's constantly calling out these crimes and these criminals. And even though he has no power to do anything about it, like he's really turning a massive, or I don't know, massive, but like a like a sizable chunk of the population in America against the powerful elite. Maybe that's all that we can really do is like try, and until it gets to a point where it's like you tip over the threshold where there's enough people all in unison just being like, like yeah, they've had enough, and that they know the truth of the
Yeah.
crimes, and then maybe I don't know, like I'm not smart enough to be the person, but maybe someone comes along who is smart, who does have answers, and then we'll all be better off.
Yeah, I guess, this is the solution what we're doing now anyway.
Yeah.
So kind of answering our own question there. So um but yeah, that's what's been going on, mate. So yeah, I wanted to talk through that because that's really where things are at the moment. It's not a stalemate, but it's like, the case is like it's just been interesting to witness like the cockroaches like reaction, It's like all of these accounts pop up. There's all these debunks which aren't actually debunking. There's all of this muddy in the waters. There's all of these accounts. There's all like they all starting to get pushed on X and
Dude,
you know,
I've noticed that, like,
yeah.
not in your in the area that you're really like excelling in, and with all the technology and all that stuff, but just with okay, so like since Dave Smith's debate with Douglas Murray on the Joe Rogan Experience, since then I've started to notice, and it never used to be like this, but like, how like on X you've got the for you timeline and then you've got the following timeline. So like the following would be, so if you've got the following selected, that timeline, it's just you're only seeing people who you actually follow. But if you've got the for you timeline selected, you'll see just like the most popular, like most viral posts and things like that pop up. Anyway, so for forever, I would just have the for you section timeline selected, and I'd just be seeing, especially since Elon bought it, I'd just see like Jake Shields and Owen Benjamin, and like heaps of these like guys who are like really good on a lot of this stuff and really funny and whatever, and but like super critical of the warfare state, super critical of neoconservatives and the Israeli government and the US government. And anyway, so since the Dave Smith Douglas Murray debate, I now, for whatever reason, I don't follow any of these people, but I just see so many pro-Israeli accounts, and they're all super critical of Dave and super pro Douglas Murray. Still, it's been like a month or 2 months since that debate, but just it's giving the impression, and I know better, but it's like if I didn't know any better, it's like giving the impression that like, oh, there's so much support for what Israel's doing in Gaza, and anyone who's arguing against it are like totally wrong, and they're the minority, and where the pro Douglas Murray people are the majority, and yeah, like I just find that interesting. It's like, wow, like it's almost like someone's like flicked a switch on the algorithm, and it seemed, this is my own speculation, but it seems that like, oh fuck, this debate on Rogan's podcast was like such a critical thing that happened, and it was Douglas Murray was so easily exposed, and he was like kind of like the best pro-Israel like guy out there willing to debate people, and he just got absolutely crushed that like, we've got to flick the fucking switch on the algorithm to make you believe, like, don't believe your lying eyes, and Douglas did a great job and Dave's a dumbass.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and this kind of gets to this reality manipulation stuff and what I'm talking about with media and these kind of organic, decentralized kind of stuff when it's clearly not. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, and then also, there's a lot of there's there's just so much narrative stuff, and this is like not groundbreaking stuff, but even like the Trump pushing back and Trump's gone against Netanyahu and this, that, and the other. So much of it's circus as well, it's scripted and they know when to put the pressure on or take it off, or you know, yeah, there's just a lot of that. On a slightly separate note, did you see the documentary that came out about Israel, like on Gaza? Did you
No, I haven't seen
the
that.
It was done by the guy that's done one on Scientology. Do you know which one I'm referring to?
No, I don't. Sorry,
I
man.
actually I need to Thoreau,
Oh, Louis Theroux. Yeah. He's great.
yeah. Um, it's called The Settlers,
Oh, so is this a new documentary that he's done?
like a month or two ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he did one, dude. He did one about, I'm going to say like 15 years ago. It's probably like 2009 or 2010, something like that, where he went to Israel, and it totally seemed that he was like completely ignorant of the whole, occupation of the Palestinian territories. And anyway, he like really went there just kind of like just wanting to learn, and maybe heard a thing or two and was like, oh, I'll just go over there and check it out for myself. And dude, he's just like, if you watch this documentary from like 2009, he is like jaw on the floor, gobsmacked, cannot believe how poorly the Palestinians are treated and how fucking ruthless these Israeli settlers are in the West Bank. And he's just like, oh, dude, it's fucking incredible. So, but I'd be curious. So, what's the new one like? Have you watched it?
Yeah, so just put the trailer on, and you'll get the gist of it.
Oh,
And I
yeah?
think the reason it's called the Settlers Louis Theroux trailer. So the reason why I'm bringing it up, A, because it's right up your alley, but also it's like very like in your face about what's going on there. And I think that this has helped. We're talking about the truth and the access to good information and the trivium process. When it's in your face so much, um, it's hard to ignore. And they're interviewing rabbis and talking about basically just. And I think that maybe what he did was he got people that weren't like natively from the region, like Polish, that came in, and but they're Jewish and all of that. So, but yeah, have you got that trailer ready to go there?
I think so. I'll just double check. Hang on. Sorry. Let me just there we go.
That's all right.
Re it up. I think it just sort of, the share screen froze, but sorry, this is super professional right now, but let me just get that.
It's episode 8, folks, not 88.
All right. Yep. Let's play it. I'll just mute you quickly.
Yeah. So this chick here is from Poland, not like Israeli Jew, but like Polish Jew that now lives there.
Most of them are, dude. Even the Israeli Jews all came from fucking Poland and
basically,
Russia.
And basically, like she does the dirty work for Netanyahu, but so they can kind of keep their hands clear, but they can drive forward the narrative of the complete destruction of Gaza and all of that.
Yeah.
All. But yeah, you just mute me and you can play it.
Cool, bro.
As the festivities wound down, I had a moment to speak to Daniela on a hilltop overlooking the Palestinian town of Beitar. So you've been talking about settling, you've talked about displacing, wanting the Palestinians to go. You said to Africa, to Canada, to England, you don't care where. Mm-hmm. What would be wrong with either a two-state solution or a one-state solution where everyone had the same rights?
We want to have a Jewish state based on Jewish rules, on Jewish values. It's not relationship of neighbors.
Why not?
Because we are two different nations. Different.
I just wonder whether you feel or you're aware that, they're really suffering. And there's been settlers rampaging through the area of the West Bank. So there's all this
Agitation.
death, tragedy, right?
Tragedy.
When a people is invaded, right, and then put under a military
Sorry, I got to pause it for a second. How was that moment there, bro, where she's like, he's trying to come up with the word. He's like, there's so much, and she's like, agitation. And he's like, death, destruction, and then she like looks away. She's like, yes, yeah, that bloody stupid thing, death. How inconvenient. All right, I'll press play. Did you have a thought on did you want to comment on any of that so far?
No.
Oh, God. All right, let's go.
occupation, deprived of their rights, that anger seems to be an understandable response, an appropriate response.
There is no such thing as settler violence. Did I speak? I don't know if I spoke. I don't mind saying it again. I mean, and I don't mind. I will be glad to explain.
You don't believe it's real? There are videos. You can see them.
You see what? Okay. let's say, now yeah, we have a camera here,
Yes.
and I do this.
Yeah.
Do something. You don't mind what I did to you. You don't necessarily have to do.
Well,
it.
I won't do that to you.
You won't. You won't.
No.
And then the camera takes just part. You don't have the full picture. Then I say you're violent. You're violent against a woman. This is exactly what is going on all the time with what you call
Settler violence.
Settler violence. Settlers do not wake up in the morning or do not go wait for sundown to attack. No, 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 no. Why should we wake up in the morning and think about violence? Why? Our life is good.
Because you want the Palestinians to leave.
No, 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 no.
You've said so.
I said that what is on my mind all the time is how to bring more people to settle the land. This is a new development by Jews. This is Har Bracha. This is Itzhar. This we can develop. Here we cannot develop. I never think in terms of. I know this is beta. I don't think about beta
Why not?
because I think about. I'm a Jew.
The people.
I'm a settler.
The people.
I'm a human being.
Yes, you are. So are they.
So I do not think about this.
You're thinking about tribalism, thinking of your own people to the exclusion. It would be understandable to think of your own people or your own children first, but to think about other people, other children, not at all, that seems sociopathic.
I can.
Doesn't it?
No, not at all. This is normal. To my children, I give everything, because the normal thing for me is to pray for my own people. That's it. So now I continue. I hoped you push me back.
She is psychopathic. She had a demon inside her, or she is a demon herself. That was intense, man. And like, oh, fucking hell, like, because so Louis no fucking idiot. Like I was saying before, like he went and did this other documentary like 15 years ago. So he knows, he would know, just like not even like the whole history, but, although he probably does, but like he knows like the recent history and just like the attitude of certain Israelis. And, you know, like whatever, like I must preface that it's not all Israelis. Like there's plenty of liberal Israelis, like kind of left-leaning Israelis that are totally against the settlement expansion and against what Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party are doing to Gaza. But yeah, like these radical settlers, like they're fucking intense, man. And how telling is all that? Like she's just like has no regard. He's like pushing on her on that multiple times. Like, oh yeah, but you know, like I understand you caring about your kids, but like other people's kids, she like refuses to even acknowledge it. That's wild.
Yeah, it's worth watching, and also it's worth watching in the context of how Catherine Austin Fitts says the Gaza is a method. So I like to look at it from not strategy is probably the wrong word, but how all of these things are being battled up areas, and they move bit by bit. Like, okay, now this week you can't go there, and next week like it's kind of bit by bit. And then also the other interview that I'd recommend people watch is, and again, not an endorsement of the people, but Steve Quast on Sean Ryan. And so, you know, there's some pretty significant points in there. And again, it's like slow drip kind of bullshit disclosure a little bit with, you know, solar power coming from satellites so you can, you know, get free energy or a different version of energy. It's a way for them to essentially implement the digital control grid and weaponize space and mind control and reality distortion fields and all of that, while giving you some text so you think that there's advancements. But, you know, there's also, if we're looking at the quantum technology and its implications, there's some important information in there. And again, he mentions the three-body problem book that we talked about last week. So I recommend people check that out. Maybe we'll go through it in more finer detail next week. So very good to be here with you, Arabian Pleb. Always good to talk to you, and it's a good learning journey as we both do our best to live in alignment with natural law and objective morality. And also, I guess we're about to go dark again, mate, because we have some big revelations coming in the next episode. And with all of the shadow banning and all of these kind of things going on, Jack's been done. That's been done already. But yeah, don't listen to all of these truthers that are not sharing much truth, I guess is what I've got to say in the matter.
If only the overlords at YouTube would just get their bloody boot off our neck, we'd be fucking massive, dude. We'd be like millions of subscribers. I'm telling you, it's just we are victims.
At least 50. We'd have at least 50 by now.
We have such victims in all of this. It's not fair. It's not fair, all right? No, but seriously, though, if anybody does enjoy what we're doing, what Cosmic Surfer and myself are doing, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. And what else do people normally say? And share it. Share it far and wide. Share it with your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, your auntie.
If you don't, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, and you're more retarded than me.
Yeah, you are the great retardation if you do not listen to everything that we say as the gospel.
On that, brother, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, bro. It was perfect.
Yeah, man,
and sorry, man, to anybody who's wondering, like, what's going on? Why aren't we fucking getting more content out there? It's solely me. I've just got a lot of shit going on at the moment, but I'm working through it, and I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. All right, I promise. That's what's happening.
Be better, man.
I will. I promise.
Much love.
Much love, brother.
Peace.
Thank you, man. Oop, hang on. I've got to get the outro sorted, don't I? Hang on.
And mute me.
Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you very much, bro. All right. Peace out, everybody.
And here's what it is. This is actually what the true great work is now. It is the arduous task of influencing other people to go through the very same process of change, of positive change in consciousness that you have gone through. It is to help them to realize that in supporting and condoning the legitimacy of authority and government, in other words, man's law, that what they have actually been supporting and condoning is the legitimacy of slavery. Truth is objective. That means that it's not dependent upon the perceptions of human beings. No one wants to hear that. That is a direct assault, a direct frontal assault on the human ego. What truth is that which does not waver. It's there, it's always been there, it's always going to be there. Nothing anybody does can change what has happened. I'm talking about the events that have taken place in the past and are taking place in the present. That's all. And guess what? That's all the truth is. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.